All right, let's talk about gravity. What if it has a secret ingredient? We're about to dive into a radical new theory that basically rebuilds our entire universe from the ground up. It suggests that the reality we see, touch, and feel, well, it's just the surface of something way, way deeper.
You know, we always think of space and time as the absolute basics, right? They're the stage where everything in the universe plays out. But what if that's completely wrong? What if the stage itself isn't real? What if it's just an illusion built from something else entirely?
Well, a new theory is proposing exactly that. It's saying space and time, they're not the fundamental fabric of reality. Nope. Instead, they emerge from the interactions of countless, much more basic building blocks. Kind of like how millions of tiny pixels come together to form the image on a screen.
Okay, so this brings us to the central mystery. If space-time isn't the foundation, then what is? To even begin to understand this, you have to do something kind of weird. You have to forget about a smooth, continuous background and start thinking about reality as a network. And to make this idea feel a little less crazy, let's use a really powerful analogy. I want you to imagine the universe isn't a vast, empty canvas. Imagine it's an enormous, ridiculously interconnected social network.
So in this cosmic social network, the fundamental individuals are called contexts. Now, these aren't just points in space. Think of them as the most basic operational units of reality itself. They're the people in the network.
And each one of these contexts isn't empty. It holds a state, a kind of opinion, or a piece of information. The paper calls it its internal charge. You can literally think of it as the status update for each individual in the network.
Now, here's maybe the most important rule of this whole network: self-preservation. Each context you see, it wants to maintain its own state, its own opinion. But it's also being influenced by all its neighbors. And there's a cost, a kind of stress, that comes from changing its own mind or disagreeing with the group around it.
So let's put it all together. Every little context has an opinion. It's constantly being influenced by its neighbors through these hidden connections. So it's always in this delicate balancing act, trying to hold on to its own beliefs while also kind of fitting in with the crowd. And this constant push and pull creates a dynamic tension, a stress that just ripples across the entire network.
Okay, but so far, this network we've described is completely static. There's no before or after. So how in the world does time get into the picture? Well, it turns out time itself is something that just emerges from how these contexts are connected to each other. It all boils down to the direction of influence. See, if context A and context B influence each other at the exact same time, there's no sequence. It's just a static relationship. But if the influence is one way, if A can influence B, but B can't influence A back, you've just created a sequence. You've literally just invented a before and an after.
And that is the crucial point. These one-way streets of influence are what impose a causal order on the entire network. This structure is what gives our universe its arrow of time. It's what creates a definite past and a definite future for every single event.
So this emergence, it happens in a few steps. First, like we just saw, the one-way connections set up a causal order. You get a before and after. Next, this structure allows us to slice the whole network up into distinct moments, kind of like frames in a movie. And finally, when you coarse grain it, which is really just a fancy way of saying you zoom way, way out, this pixelated network of individual points magically smooths out, and it reveals the continuous space-time we all know and love. Okay, that's amazing. We've built space-time from scratch. But what about gravity? This is where the theory gets, I think, really beautiful. Gravity isn't some mysterious force pulling things together. It's just the network trying to settle down into its most balanced, least stressed state.
And this quote from the source paper explains it perfectly. Gravity isn't fundamental. It's just what happens when the network's geometry, what it calls its curvature, and the flow of information, the charges, are all just trying to find a stable equilibrium.
But what on earth is NQS curvature? So it's not about space being literally bent like a sheet of rubber. It's a measure of informational twisting. Imagine you try to carry a piece of information on a journey around a closed loop in the network. If you get back to where you started and your information has somehow changed, that difference, that's the curvature.
This slide just shows the core idea so brilliantly. On the right, you have Einstein's classic idea. Matter and energy tell space-time how to curve. But on the left, you have the new version. The stress from all that self-preservation tells the network how to curve.
That tension in the network, that desire to agree, it plays the exact same role as all the matter and energy in our entire universe. And check this out. This isn't just a cool story. It actually works. The paper shows that even simple models built on these rules can reproduce real-world physics. For instance, if you have a uniform network where all the points have similar stress, it behaves just like our expanding universe. And if you create a small, localized stiff region, basically a stubborn little neighborhood that really resists changing its opinion, it perfectly mimics the gravitational pull of something like a star.
So why does all of this matter? What does this new way of looking at things really unlock? Well, it gives us a much deeper, and honestly, a much more unified picture of the universe.
It just elegantly combines all these concepts that we normally treat as totally separate things. The geometry of the universe and the stuff inside it are no longer two different things. They are both just different features of this single, underlying network of contexts and their deep-seated drive for self-preservation.
I mean, this is a really profound shift. What we call mass is just a region of the network that's particularly stubborn. It has a very high self-preservation instinct. And what we experience as gravity is just the curvature that this stubbornness creates in the network all around it.
So, at the end of the day, this theory suggests that everything, the stage and all the actors on it, the geometry of space and all the matter inside it, can be described by one single structure, with just one set of rules governing the whole cosmic show.
Which, leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought. When we look out at the cosmos, at all the stars and galaxies held together by gravity, are we just witnessing the large-scale effects of a vast cosmic network of information that's simply trying to find consensus? A universe trying its best to agree with itself?